Continuing, social management of this sort was nothing less for Rockefeller than changing America's way of life by among other things, altering what Kinsey would call breeding patterns along an evolutionary or animalistic view of human sexual conduct. The main problem with Kinsey's quantitative research and his numbers is that they were radically skewed in order to achieve his own purposes. Researchers into Kinsey's methods, which purportedly catalog normal sexuality in America, have noted that he loaded the ranks of his test subjects with an inordinately high number of persons imprisoned for sexual deviancy. So that means that he stacked his own study against himself. You know what I mean? Of course, if you get immoral people participating, yeah, like that's just like if you go ask majority of people that have ever never been to prison anything about prison or some kind of you were doing some kind of study on violence or crime, but you ask people that's never had a felony or have never been in a violent situation, how do you think that's like stacking it against the fucking devil, man? Researchers into Kinsey's methods, which purportedly catalog normal sexuality in America, have noted that he loaded the ranks of his test subjects with an inordinately high number of persons imprisoned for sexual deviancy, prostitutes, and child molesters. Criminals estimated by one researcher as providing as high as 1/3 of his overall subjects. Kinsey entered them into his database as normal examples of the population. In addition, Kinsey relied heavily on volunteers. 6 years before the publication of Kinsey's volume, psychologist Abraham Maslow had pointed out that any study in which data are obtained from volunteers will always have a preponderance of aggressive, high dominance people, and therefore will show a falsely high percentage of virginity, masturbation, promiscuity, homosexuality, etc. in the population. Reread it. Any study in which data are obtained from volunteers will always have a preponderance of aggressive, because you just basically like they didn't really like get a specific group of people. You get what I'm saying? That's just like, for instance, you got people that make decisions based on a certain area but don't live in that area. You get what I'm saying? So who would know what's best for the or perfect example, like for instance, you had news agencies speak on the fact of that hurricane, and you got all these the media basically lying here and other places, because they're saying the total of deaths was like 55 people, but then you got a media outlet in the Bahamas where the shit took place, or the hurricane took place, and they're saying it was thousands of bodies. So who would be more accurate? I mean, or who would you trust to get the information from more so? The people that's actually there, or some media outlet that is here? You got CNN and ABC and all these different news outlets that's basically owned by the same people we naming. You know what I mean? Because when you really go into research it, you'll find out the same group of people own everything. You know what I mean? They just got shit up under different names. In addition, Kinsey relied heavily on volunteers. 6 years before, I read that, Salakia. Kinsey's Institute director Paul Gebert described Kinsey's approach. At the Indiana State Farm, we had no plan of sampling. We simply sought out sex offenders, and after a time avoided the more common types of offenses, statutory rape, and directed our efforts toward the rare types. And statutory rape was in parentheses. In the early stages of the research, and much interviewing was being done at Indiana correctional institutions. So basically, they went to a prison, and when they interviewed all these deviant, well, The devil. I mean, when you tell the grasp that, and then portray it as if like that was like everyday citizen. You know, they're like, wow. Dr. Kinsey did not view the inmates as a discrete group that should be differentiated from people outside. Instead, he looked upon the institutions as reservoirs of potential interviewees, literally captive subjects, and didn't have to pay them. So you got a double one off, huh? This viewpoint resulted in there being no differentiation in our 1948 volume between persons with and without prison experience. The great majority of the prison group was collected without any sampling plan. We simply interviewed all who volunteered, and when this supply of subjects was exhausted, we solicited other inmates essentially at random. Kinsey never kept a record of refusal rates, the proportions of those who were asked for interviews but who refused. I'm going to skip some of this. It says, part of Kinsey's collection of sex films included films of children and sex acts and adults with child sex. Kinsey Institute director Paul Gebhard wrote in 1981, since sexual experimentation with human infants and children is illegal, we have had to depend upon other sources of data. Some of these were parents mostly. And when you take the time to think about this shit, look at what kind of society we're living in today. Now, this was in the 1948 or something. Now, mind you, 1948 something. Okay, so that's two. So say 1950 basically. 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 210. So you might as well say 72 to 73 years and look at where we come. I mean, like the Chief Gabar, he always goes into that little, I believe he's an Edomite, a little Edomite boy that basically wants to be a girl. So like it, that's the spirit because I was in the midst of I was burning frankincense and myrrh while I was doing a video. And the craziest part is, now tell me how this, you know, this was some spiritual. I hear, you know, Most High speak through certain Akim and elders and whatnot all the time. But you know this was spiritual. I just got into burning, you know, I burn incense, but I just got into burning the resin, frankincense, and myrrh. You know, I burn the white sage sometimes, or I try to burn that once a week, but that's neither here nor there. I literally turned my smoke detectors off. They're turned off. You know, I went to the circuit breaker, I turned them off. So how the fuck did it just go off? That's spiritual all day. I mean, like, not making it up at all of that. So I will take that as a sign because I was going into the devils, you know. But I guess I will stop. I'm going to stop the lesson there. It was a couple more pages. There's actually like one more page, so I may just do another video on it to finish this up. Laura willing. After camp, because I'm about to get ready for camp, and I know you know, it was decreed to make the videos about 10 minutes, but sometimes I think that, you know, the elders and apostles will look past me if I stop it, you know, a few seconds before the 10-minute mark. So with that, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory. Call hello Allah Yahweh by Hashem, Yahweh Shah by Hashem, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Taught me this truth. Peace and salutations to the Akim around the four corners of the earth, pushing the truth with faith and sincerity, risking their lives and the freedom to do so. Shalom to the Akim out there listening and learning. Lord willing, it was an edifying video. Shalom to the confusion and facing. Brethren, join onto our ranks. And with that, I want to just say shalom, shalom. And till next time, Lord willing, Shalom and a Bob a ball. Shalom.